As I'm doing this, Liz Truss's future is very, very much still uncertain. But I don't even know, to be honest, if she will even survive it to the end of the day. She may be at this point already out by this time this video comes out, which, if it has, hooray, at last. If if she is somehow still deciding to carry on, then oh my god, you know, to quote, what is it, Henry II? Who will rid us of this turbulent woman? Will Michael Gove, Jeremy Hunt, or someone just become Prime Minister already and restore at least some semblance of order to our chaotic government? Just at least for 24 hours. That's all we're asking for the moment. We'll have to see which one works out. Of course, let me know down in the chat. But Brexit, of course, the very much spectre and baby of this Conservative Party, is still very much an issue. And the Conservatives still refuse to even acknowledge that this is an issue. Only Tobias Ellwood so far is the only Tory MP who has said that, yeah, actually, Brexit hasn't been as good as, the Brexiteers made it out to be, and it is causing significant problems to our economy. And that if, quote, well, who knows if she's still in, but if Liz Truss wanted to sort of grow the economy quickly, you could grow it by 4% by just rejoining the single market, which, remember, as we always say, remember the infamous words of Daniel Hannan during the 2016 referendum that, no one's talking about leaving the single market and customs union, only a fool would leave the single market and customs union. And of course, we warned time after time after time. And if we leave this, group, this organization, there will be significant economic consequences. And lo and behold, we are now more and more starting to see those economic consequences. So let's go into this story or this report that has seen that, yes, we are having a very significant drop in trade with the EU, to no one's surprise. So, as always, thank you very much to those people who do support the channel. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, there is the YouTube thank you button and the YouTube subscription called the Pony Club, where you can join that and you get badges, emojis, and all sorts of stuff that you can use on the channel as well. So let's go over to The Guardian with their report on this, with the title of Trade from the UK to the EU is 16% lower than if Brexit had not happened, report finds. So the UK is now trading less with Europe. And by the way, even though there has been a worldwide economic trade boom, we have missed out on this. And we've got to remember, that 16%, I don't think it gets into sort of the number of what this is. But we've talked about it before, that businesses and companies losing, massive amounts of their percentage because no one from Europe wants to buy from the UK anymore. It's become even more expensive just to buy something, to transport it. The costs alone are just priced UK businesses completely out of the EU market. And of course, that is going to have a massive knock-on effect for businesses, especially coming out of the pandemic and coming out into this bizarre economic mess that the Tories have created for us. So, on to this. So, trade from the UK to the EU is down 16% on levels that have on the levels anticipated had Brexit not happened, a new report has found. Meanwhile, trade from the EU to the UK has dropped even further by about 20% relative to a scenario in which Brexit had not occurred. And according to a research published on Wednesday by the Institute of Social and Economic Institutes. Using the UK and EU data, it found that measuring the impact of Brexit on UK-EU trade can give very varied results depending on the data source and the comparison group used. The report of how Brexit has changed UK-EU trade flows found that the impact of Brexit on the EU-UK trade does not appear to have to appear that large if compared to UK trade with the rest of the world, as global exports from Britain have been growing slowly. But When the UK's trade with the rest of the world was compared with the EU's faster growing performance, with more than over 200 different trading partners, this picture showed a marked difference. The analysis was based on a monthly HMRC and country level Eurostat data, and it found a substantial reduction in the numbers of products traded from the UK to the EU. Are we surprised? Of course not, because we've been doing all the stories about all the businesses losing business to the EU. Of course, there was going to be a reduction. So this isn't really surprising news. It just merely confirms the picture that had been building for years now. The ERSI said that the goods traded between the EU, and the UK had increased following a sharp fall in the early months of 2021. Trade has recovered to most of its pre-2021 levels in value terms. However, it remains significantly below what it might otherwise have been if it had followed the same growth rate as other trade partners. The ESI noticed that the global exports of goods from the UK have been growing slowly, a trend it said may have been partly the result of the Brexit spillover effects on the supply chain. It said that most countries across the EU and the size of the impact of Brexit was broadly similar for both exports and imports. Peter Norris of the Virgin Group, of the chair governor of the Brexit Monitoring Group, the UK Trade and Business Commission, said that recovering lost trade with Europe should be a top priority as the country enters a recession. The government can do this by removing barriers to trade which Brexit created, he added. Ireland still stands out as having a particularly large reduction in imports from the UK relative to its other international trade partners, according to the ESI. However, exports from Ireland to the UK do continue to perform in line with those of other markets, with no notable impact to date of Brexit on the total levels traded. Researchers believe that the increase in trade between Ireland and the North of Ireland may actually account for this. The study did not examine if there was a variation across product types, and the ESI did acknowledge that some may have seen different exports to the UK decline. Also, the research did not examine the services trade. So, as always, we get these reports, we get these pictures, we get the businesses. I've lost X amount of my business because no one from Europe wants to buy from me anymore. You've got the export Brexit champions that have basically had to call in the administrators because they've lost that sheer amount of money. I think they went from, what was it, 300,000 to just 2,000 in terms of export loss. That's a significant amount of money, and we've talked about this time and time and time again. The EU and being in the single market was amazing because the UK businesses could treat any other country that was in the single market as almost their home base as well. So they could sell just as easily to someone in the UK as they could to France, to Spain, to Germany, etc., etc. But now that's no longer the case. And you've got a business basically saying, yeah, you've put up these trade barriers. Can we get rid of them, please? This is what we were talking about from day one. The second that they put in this hard Brexit, which they now said that they didn't want to do, but pursued with with absolute wanton destruction, has now caused huge damage to the UK economy, and I can't see that slowing down anytime soon. But this shouldn't be a surprise. We've been talking about the impact of businesses, and of course, slowly and slowly, this picture will just build more and more over time. We'll get more reports because people will want to look into it. And of course, as usual, it will not be good news. So very, very quickly, I think you will see the economic case for rejoining, certainly the single market and customs union. But eventually, once we're in that, it's like, well, why don't we just rejoin the EU? As we always said, doesn't matter. Our path back to the EU is pretty much paved for us already. It's just a question of how quickly and how fast. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.